Today's episode of Off the Ice on the Monkey Sports Podcast is brought to you by HockeyMonkey. Next time you need any and all hockey equipment, head to HockeyMonkey.com, plug in the promo code PODCAST10, that's PODCAST, the number 10, 10, for 10% off your entire order. Some exclusions may apply. That's promo code PODCAST10, PODCAST, the number 10, 10, at HockeyMonkey.com, 10% off your entire order. Some exclusions may apply. Let's get into some Off the Ice.
The demons have been exorcised! Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Pittsburgh! We're going to Tampa Bay! The Capitals have done it!
All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Off the Ice Podcast, hosted by Monkey Sports. I'm Tyler from HockeyMonkey, and today I'm joined with Grayson from HockeyMonkey. Grayson, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Not too bad. Glad to get another episode out. It's been quite a while.
Yeah. Once I got mine in, I felt like everything's back and running. But I'm glad that everyone's having a chance to finally get back to their podcasts.
Yeah, it's been exciting. So for episode 4 of our Off the Ice podcast, we had a chance to sit down with Rich Malnick from HockeyCoach.com. Now, Rich is a private ice hockey coach that helps kids of various ages improve their ice hockey skills both on ice and off ice, helping them improve their shot speed, shot velocity, skating agility, on ice IQ, and everything in between. Rich is your guy. So we had a chance to sit down with Rich from HockeyCoach.com and talk to him a little bit about his coaching background, coaching experience. And along with that, we got a couple pretty awesome stories with some private ice lessons with some ex and current NHL players, coaches, and GMs. So it's definitely not one you're going to miss. Be sure to check it out later on in this episode. So beforehand, I wanted to bring up a topic with you to kind of get a goalie's perspective on this topic that I've kind of thought about for a while. And then for whatever reason, it was like 11 o'clock at night last night, and I started thinking about it again. I asked the hypothetical question. It's like, how are we as fans, analysts, whoever else it may be, how are we able to pick and choose and say this player, so-and-so player is better than his peers, he's the best player in the world? So that's kind of the question I had. It's like, how do we... Everyone is in the NHL, and, we can still easily say this guy's the best. So how is he the best? So breaking that question down a little bit and explaining it a little bit farther, every player I would say in the NHL has, same physical stature. 95% of the league is 5'10 to 6'2". They all have the tools readily available to have no ceiling on their potential. They all have the same workout routines. They all have the same nutrition. They all have the ability to work out with a coach whenever they want. So if you take a guy, I think if you were to ask 99 fans of the NHL, who's the best player in the world right now, I would say 95% of them would say Connor McDavid. That's just an example. You look at him, he's the best in the world, but he's not an anomaly. He's, probably 6 feet tall. So how is he such a franchise generational type player? What does he do?
Yeah, what's like the separator between him and like any other guy who has his exact same body type
and has the exact same ability to be that? So it got me thinking, yes, everyone has that ability. Yes, everyone obviously goes 100% all the time when you're playing, working out, whatever it may be. But at what point, does quote unquote the average player reach his max? Because, you get a third line center, that guy's never going to be. Yeah,
it's like some guys, not to sound crude, some guys hang around and they never make it past third, second line just because. Yeah, they're stuck there because that's their potential. That is their absolute max potential. That is the best that they are going to get.
Yeah, and it might be just like an easy answer, but for some reason I was just thinking about it last night, and there might be an easy answer to it, like I said. But I mean, is that all it is? Is that like, you know, these generational type players, you know, McDavid, Ovechkin, Crosby, are they just born to be hockey players, or just like, you know, do they have the tools to make them, you know, what they are, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You know, the average player, you know, he might cap out at, you know, average skill.
Yeah, like
but
third line, second.
But a guy like McDavid,
player.
like, you know, his smarts on the ice, the way he can read plays, his IQ on offense and defense, not a lot of guys have that. And so I guess the question is, like, at what point are those skills like not coachable or not teachable? I don't know if that's the same with goalie. I do have a couple other examples where I think it is very similar to hockey. I would say like running backs in the NFL. Is that a good example?
Well, I feel like the NFL is like a different story compared to like hockey, because I feel like not everyone can play hockey. Yeah. You know, like it's kind of a weird thing. It's like not everyone knows how to skate. Like even if you skate for a long time, you still might have like issues. Even if you like work super hard to like work them out, like you're never gonna work them out. Mm-hmm. But so it takes like a certain type of person to become a NHL athlete first off. Yeah. Or just like a very good hockey player. But I feel like for the NFL, it's like you just have to have like a body type and everything. I feel like every position in the NFL is teachable besides like quarterback.
Yeah, I did think about quarterback, and
like quarterback, it takes that playmaking skill in your head, and like defensive linemen and linebackers do have this defensive like mentality and the intellect to read a play and execute it perfectly every single time, no matter what comes at them. So it's like, I just feel like there's a lot more positions in sports like football that are just kind of like, a lot of the things are teachable, but there is like that separating factor that creates like that star athlete for the most part.
Football definitely relies more on
physicality
and like that anomaly type player, you know, if like,
it's like if you're 6'5" and like, you know, you're like 245, but like 200 of that is just straight muscle or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know how like heavy like the ratios are, but like if you're just like a straight tank, like obviously like you're gonna be miles ahead of someone. I think it's the same thing for like goaltenders. I think if you're around 6'2" to 6'5", you're already ahead of the pack. Mm-hmm. It's like we've all seen it. Any goaltender who's like been hanging around in like juniors has seen like a goalie who is in the top level juniors and you're in the level below, just because like they're taller. It's like they're just a taller guy. They might not have as much skill, but like the game's easier to them naturally because they are taller and they're gonna get the job done. And I feel like when you teach a goalie of that kind of size to play his best and to play like a smaller goalie, that's when you get the people like Pekka Rinne and I would say kind of Ben Bishop, but mostly like someone like Pekka Rinne, who's insanely tall, but he has this athleticism to him that like you have to work at. But he already had the size, so that's why he's so good, is because he has the size to aid him in being better than everyone else.
Interesting. Yeah, I think, like I said, in terms of like hockey players, I don't really know if that anomaly type player, you know, you look at a guy like Chara, for example. I mean, he's
like, is size really going to help you as a player, you know?
Yeah, so it definitely doesn't help you as much in player, I feel like, just because one, you don't really see it as much, so there's less to compare. But
yeah,
you know, obviously a 6'5" goalie is going to start out with way more an advantage. Like if you have like a 6'5" or 6'6" forward, like I mean,
yeah, unless he's a defenseman one. I feel like defenseman like is the only position like size wise that you can like thrive off of, is because you physically are a wider base on the ice. You can cover another 3 feet of length around the net that someone else who is like a couple feet or like, you know, like 5'8", 5'10", against the 6'5" player, you know.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like physical attributes to that, but I feel like the separating factor between going from the AHL level to the NHL level or even just amateur to pro, like just that straight up, I feel like there is a mental aspect, but what separates the low end player, the average player, the second, third liner from Ovechkin, Crosby, McDavid is they all have a similar story of I worked my bag off from when I was a kid until I was a pro, and then I just kept going.
Yeah.
You hear those skating stories from McDavid where his skating coach was just pushing him every single day.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that what all pro players,
exactly, yeah,
they do that? So that's kind of my point is like, yeah, everyone does that, but they're still never on that level.
But you got to think, like, even within that, you got to think of, like, how, like, Crosby, I've seen, like, a few videos of, like, Crosby's, like, backstory and stuff like that. You can find them on YouTube. But it's about how he, no matter, like, he's working out every single day, but he's pushing himself to his potential every single workout. Unlike some of these other guys. You can work out every day, but unless you're pushing yourself to the absolute limit every single day, you're never going to be the best. And, someone like Kobe Bryant or, Michael Jordan, you see videos of them, like that Michael Jordan documentary came out, and you see him leading the pack in, like, all these, like, running drills in practice and, like, little stints. They don't really talk about it. But everyone on these backstories of talking about him are like, this dude was outworking us every single day, and if he messed up, he was in the gym after. He was doing this, he was doing that. It's about taking that extra step of the mile to become the best player in the world.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of that is in-game also, mental situations. The whole Mamba mentality, and especially Michael Jordan, as it's most relevant right now to talk about, of he would play okay until someone would tell him that, like, oh, we beat you, until someone gets in his face.
Yeah.
And the second someone gets in his face, he turns on a switch. I feel like it's that killer instinct in a player to really take it to the next level. Ovechkin has it. Crosby has it. McDavid has it, where if you give them a reason to beat you, they're going to beat you,
Yeah. Going back to the coaching aspect, like all these tangible skills, whether it be, physical, mental, there's always room for improvement. It's something that can be coached. It's just like, to what extent. And I mean, it might not apply, as much in goalie.
I feel like in goalie there's a lot more like physical limitations. Yeah. It's like you have someone like Jonathan Quick who can drop into the splits at a drop of a hat, and he can still be mobile in his upper body. Like, that's a very special thing to him. Yeah. Like, that's not every goalie. But then you have someone like, I don't know, Marc-Andre Fleury, like we spoke about earlier. Yeah. Like what separates Marc-Andre Fleury is because he has this instinct to battle. Carey Price was lost for a long time as a goaltender, and this coach I know was able to speak to Carey Price's coach, and they were talking about, like, why wasn't Carey Price good for a couple years there? What was wrong with him? Like, besides, like, I think he had an injury in there somewhere, I believe. It's because he was worrying about too much of doing everything by the book. And so the coach realized, like, hey, like, you have to want to stop the puck. That's a huge thing for goaltenders. I had that for a little bit, for like a year, where it's like I wanted to do everything by the book. I wanted to look perfect. But unless you have that instinct to battle for the puck and do whatever it takes to stop it, that those crazy plays that Quick, Lundqvist, Rene, Fleury, like Fleury's a highlight a night type of goalie because he wants to stop the puck. And in practice, you hear stories of him, even when they're not even in drills, he's pushing his limit to stop the puck no matter what he does because he wants to. It's his job. Like, he has that in his mind implanted that he's going to stop the puck no matter what. And I feel like that's what a lot of goalies miss. They want to look good. They want to be perfect. And you have to have that instinct of, I want to do this.
So I think this will be a good opportunity for us to segue into our interview with Rich from HockeyCoach.com, where he dives into a little bit about his coaching background, his coaching abilities, and so on. So without further ado, here that is.
We are joined now by Rich Mihelic from Motor City Hockey and HockeyCoach.com. Rich, how you doing?
Great. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. We're very excited to kind of get this one going. For those of you out there that don't know, we recently struck a little deal with HockeyCoach.com. Going to start bringing you drills of the week, especially during all this crazy time. So be on the lookout for everything coming out from HockeyCoach.com and HockeyMonkey. But before we jump into all the coaching stuff, Rich, let's get a little bit about your kind of background in hockey, where you started and kind of how you've ended up to the point you're at right now.
Okay, so I started out playing hockey locally at a rink called Detroit Skating Club, in which I played my entire hockey career there, except for 1 year, the final year I played with some friends at a different rink. But it was really cool growing up playing hockey at Detroit Skating Club because one of the kids I played hockey with was actually Nolan Howe, and his grandfather was Gordie Howe. So Gordie Howe would always be at the rink and watching us play games and stuff. And Mark Howe would come on the bench once in a while. So it was an awesome experience as a kid growing up. I knew I always wanted to get into coaching. It was funny because I was looking back at a Christmas card from when I was a young, like probably in middle school or something like that. My mother wrote, Merry Christmas. One day you're going to make an excellent high school coach someday. So I started, I kept playing and playing. And hockey was like a 24/7 thing for me. I just loved hockey, everything about hockey. When I was in grade school, I was drawing pictures of hockey. In middle school and high school, I was drawing up plays, and it was just constantly on my brain. And I knew that I always wanted to get into coaching hockey. So when I was 18 years old, I was working at Ford Motor Company. So I was working at 3 a.m. to 3 p.m., and I was going to school at Central Michigan University at the same time. And I also started my coaching career at that time. So I was only 18, and my schedule was really crazy. But I was actually coaching volunteer for Bantam House, and then I was actually coaching 2 high school teams too.
So that's just going from there. That's a pretty unique kind of start to your career, I guess, because, obviously kids grow up, and I feel like if Gordie Howe was watching me play, when I was a kid, I would grow up wanting to be a player. But what was it about coaching that really kind of drew you towards that route versus, trying to be a player?
I loved working with a group, leadership and, putting direction into things when it came to providing feedback on plays or systems and stuff. I was always constantly studying the game. So when I would watch like a hockey game, I was constantly studying what the players were doing and what they were doing as a group and as a team. And it was just one of my things, is I always knew I wanted to get into coaching, but I wanted to coach at all levels. Like, I love working with little kids, and even when I was playing growing up, I would actually go to the rink and actually help with the younger players that were in the instructional program. So I knew I would say I was probably helping with the instructional programs when I was like 14 or 15 years old. And at that point, I knew that's what I wanted to do with my life, is I wanted to be involved in hockey forever. There were times where I didn't think it would be possible, but, that's what really shaped it, was that instructional program as a kid, and going out there and having an impact in a kid's life. Even as only a 14-year-old, just working with a kid that's just starting out to play hockey, they just look up to you so much. And I really thought, I just loved that feeling and I felt so fulfilled when I would go home for that night.
Growing up in a city like Detroit, where it's known for its hockey, you had the Red Wings growing up. What made you decide to say, hey, let me use the experience I gained, through the years growing up playing hockey in Detroit, to start, privately coaching, teams as well as individuals?
Yes, what it started out was when I was pretty much first getting into coaching. I was really coaching teams. I was like 18, and I emailed everyone in the state of Michigan, any coach, whether it was even travel or house. I was just looking for any opportunity I could get to gain experience. And I could tell you right now, I emailed everyone, and I had very few opportunities, and the opportunities that I did have, just no one would email me back. I mean, I would wake up in the morning and I would just email. Hey, I'm not looking for money. I just want to gain experience. I just want to learn. And that's how I got involved with those high school teams and the Bantam teams, and it really shaped my career that first year of coaching hockey.
That's pretty awesome. And so did that kind of lead its way into, some collegiate teams, some NHL teams, AHL, anything?
So what happened was, basically, from once I went to coaching house and high school teams locally, I put in an application. So another thing is, when I first started getting into coaching, the economy was just horrible, so there were really no job opportunities anywhere. And what happened is and if I did see a hockey job, I would apply for it, no matter whether I had a chance of getting it or not. I mean, I was pretty much 19, 20 years old, applying for Harvard assistant coach jobs, and now I know it's like that would be impossible to get. But once I graduated college and I was still coaching, I was working at a private rink here in Detroit, where I was running instructional programs and different skills training programs. And a job came across my screen when I woke up one morning, and it was for the Wilkes-Barre-Scranton Penguins, which is the main affiliate for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So I submitted an application, and they contacted me back, and they interviewed me, and I spoke with the general manager of the rink, and then I actually interviewed with the CEO for the Wilkes-Barre-Scranton Penguins, who's Jeff Barrett. And they loved my approach because I was from Detroit, so I had a different, a lot of experience with a very busy market, and they wanted to bring that out to the Penguins with their rink and try to grow the game of hockey out there. So what happened was, after several interviews, I actually ended up taking the job, and I took the job. It wasn't for the pay, that's for sure. What I was trying to do was I was trying to gain experience, and I wanted the opportunity. And it was a programming position at the rink, so it was like learn to skate, learn to play, and then with the idea that I would help out with travel teams. So my first day of work there, I was all excited. I met Dan Bylsma. He was the head coach of Pittsburgh Penguins at the time. My very first day of work. And then as I was getting ready to leave for the day, the CEO of the Penguins is Jeff Barrett. And I was getting ready to walk out the door, and Jeff goes, Rich, where are you going? And I said, I'm just heading home for the day. And he goes, no, you're not. He's like, you're running my son's practice. So I had a really long day, and then he's like, hey, you're running my kid's practice today. And so I went out there, and I ran his son's practice. And then whenever we got off the ice, Jeff looked at me, and he goes, all right, tomorrow you're going to be training this guy. And he took me back to the Wilkes-Barre Penguins locker room. And it was a guy, he's 6'6" or 6'7". His name is Boris Valavic. He's a first-round pick, and he fought Chara. And he was a lot older than me. I was probably 24 years old at the time. He was quite a bit older than me. And he's like, this is the guy you're going to skate. And Boris was so nice to me. He was great with me. And from that day forward, when I was out in Wilkes-Barre, I did anything and everything at that facility for the rink. So I ran Learn to Skate. I ran Learn to Play Hockey. I coached the Adam Mites. I coached the travel junior Penguins from squirt to midget, every single team. And then I started coaching the Division I prep school, Wyoming Seminary. And then all at the same time, I was running a lot of conditioning and rehab and skill assignments that were instructed by me for the Penguins. So I would be out on the ice. For example, I trained Derek Pouliot for several years when I was there, and I would be out on the ice with him. He's a first-round pick that played in he went on to play in the NHL and won a cup with Pittsburgh. And I would be out there training him, and at the same time, a mother that's trying to sign up her daughter for Learn to Skate would be tapping on the glass to get my attention to sign her kid up for Learn to Skate. So it was a crazy experience. I learned so much from Wilkes-Barre. I actually ran the skates during the lockout, so that was a crazy experience. I coached guys that were in a team setting, like Robert Bertuzzo. He won the Stanley Cup with St. Louis. Tom Kuhnackel, who won 2 cups with Pittsburgh. And there were all kinds of these players that went on to play in the NHL, so the experience was incredible. But for a young man, like at the time during that lockout, I think I was around 25, 26 years old, and I was answering to Dan Bylsma, who was the head coach of Pittsburgh at the time, and then we had Todd Reardon, who's the head coach of the Washington Caps, and then we had John Hines, who's the head coach of the Nashville Predators, and Elaine Nazardine, who's the interim head coach for the New Jersey Devils, and then we had Bill Guerin, who was the general manager of the Wild. So it was crazy for a young man. Those were the kind of guys I was answering to, and I didn't have any guidance. So when I worked with John Hines, anything I would do for the team, Coach Hines would always just say, "Hey, Rich, your stuff's good. Just run with what you have." And I was hoping secretly, "Hey, do you have a drill or something I could have to run these guys?" So it was an unbelievable experience.
Yeah, how do you even, prepare for that? Especially when you said, if you're not really having someone above you necessarily, or having things in mind, like how do you go from, teaching somebody how to skate to then saying, "Oh, I need to take this first round NHL pick and, get him ready for the league." Like, what's just from a mental aspect, getting yourself ready to do something like that?
Well, anytime you get on the ice with a pro athlete or a high-level athlete, you definitely set the day up like you know it's coming. You prepare for it in a different way. You know that things are going to get crazy, and you know that things are going to be really intense, and that you need to perform and you need to deliver. Now, when I was running those lockout skates, I was a young guy. I was out on the ice with I was coaching Ryan Craig was on the ice, and Ryan Craig is now an assistant coach for the Vegas Golden Knights in the NHL. So, I was coaching veterans too, as well as rookies. So it's like I had a lot of pressure on me. But what I do as a coach is I always prepare anything and everything that I do. I really prepare it to the extreme. So, like when I go out on the ice for a private lesson or a group lesson or a team practice, I have everything structured to the second that what we're going to be doing when we're out on the ice. And then I also have a backup plan in case we go through something really fast, or, for instance, I want to get rid of something and I want to try to add something in. I always have a structured plan. So what I do is I mentally prepare. I write everything down that I want to accomplish, set drills, set plays, whatever I'm trying to do. So that way I can mentally prepare for what we're trying to accomplish on the ice versus if you're a 25, 26-year-old kid and you're going out to run, at the time I felt like I was old, but I was really young. And when you're going out to run elite athletes that have NHL experience, you need to be mentally prepared and ready for that task, in which I was. But it's one of those things where I think if you prepare before you go out on the ice, you're going to have way more success versus a coach or a skills trainer that's just going out and kind of shooting from the hip, per se. Like, you're not really you're not really invested, you want to maximize your time. And you also need to adapt to changes. So the big thing that was challenging is the very first day, all the coaches were there, all the coaches I mentioned, and with all the crazy experience they had. And there was supposed to only be, I think it was around 12 or 13 guys that were supposed to be reporting into skate that day, or that's what I was told. And then whenever I got on the ice, there was probably like 24 to 26 guys. So that's a totally different animal too. And I was able to, come up with different things on the fly that first day. But it was, it's one of those things that it teaches you a lot about shifting and changing things as needed. And then I thought I was safe because Bill Guerin, who was the general manager for Wilkes-Barre, I believe at that time, he came out on the ice to help. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, thank you, Billy G, you're here to save me." I thought he was here to save me. And I said, "Well, Billy G, do whatever you want." He goes, "Oh no," he goes, I'm here just to push pucks. It's your show today, Rich."
He just needed a little ice time.
It's funny.
Well, I guess that's a testament to your method. If you have NHL GMs and coaches coming to you for your expertise, so it's good to hear.
Yeah, it was a cool experience. I learned a lot from that. And I coached the guys. It was during the lockout, so it was I forget how long it was for, but it was for quite a long time. So I had the same group of guys. But it was a really hard-working group of guys. It's just a different level of intensity. It was the first time I really skated a group at that level. And just the intensity and the speed. I remember whenever I had my plans on a clipboard and just on paper drill diagrams. And I remember when the guys were warming up, they were skating, and I was, it was my first time running the skate like that, so I was a little nervous before we got started. And then I just looked at my piece of paper, and my paper was flapping in the wind because of all the wind with how fast they were skating. So it was a very intense environment, but I absolutely loved it.
I mean, I'm sure that, your preparedness obviously goes a long way in that setting, but is there any kind of level, like when you have so much experience both on the ice and in, the coaches and GMs that you mentioned, is there a certain level of like kind of commanding respect or putting yourself out there in a sense that you have to show that you know what you're doing other than just like, hey, let's hop into these drills? Or, I mean, obviously those guys are professionals, so they've kind of seen everything, but how tough is that to earn that trust, really?
To be honest with you, the guys that I skated with, they were all professionals, so anything that they were being directed, they knew would be reported directly back to the coach. And the guys at that level, they just wanted to get better. They wanted to get a workout, and they wanted to. They knew I was out there to help them, and they were awesome. They were awesome to skate. I absolutely loved it, and they taught me a lot, and I brought in some new drills that kept things fresh. And I always was constantly, every single skate was a different practice. It wasn't like we were repeating the same practice. It was always different drills. The tempo was always super high. I mean, at times, some of the practices were scheduled for 60 minutes, and the guys wanted to go for an extra 40 minutes. So that's when that's when I had to start coming up with more and more stuff. But it actually taught me a lot as a coach. And then, what I would do as a coach is I write down the drills and then the times that I expect the drill to last. So, for example, like a typical youth hockey drill will be, on one of my practices would be like 7 to 8 minutes, as were when I had 7 to 8 minutes blocked off for them. And that first practice, I noticed really quickly that they were shredding through drills in 4 or 5 minutes. So it was a lot faster, higher tempo pace, and they were getting in a bunch of reps.
So transitioning from there, from all the on-ice stuff and in-person stuff to the media side into HockeyCoach.com, where did you kind of start having the idea of maybe filming these drills or doing stuff that's more accessible to people that aren't in Detroit or don't have the avenues to get your kind of coaching?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I did was I run a hockey training company as well out here called Motor City Hockey. And it was getting to a point where the demand for on-ice training for the programs that I had, they were just filling so far in advance that I wasn't able to get new players in, and new players wanted training. So I wanted to create an online training program in which they could complete the drills at home to try to meet that demand, to keep kids engaged and active. And I also wanted to have a larger reach. Here in Detroit, I knew I had kids in Wilkes-Barre in different areas. Now, Wilkes-Barre has really good coaching, but there are areas in, like, for example, Indiana. There may be a small town in Indiana, and they don't really have that professional skills instruction. So I wanted to provide a resource to those players. So I created these programs well over a year ago. I started with the program Driveway Dangles, which is a stick handling program. And then I moved into, Mental Grit, which is a player confidence program. And then I really took it from there. Now I added a Top Shot, which is an instructional program with over 70 minutes of footage. And a coaching program for coaches to have different drills and systems. It's just all to grow the game of hockey and provide a resource for kids to get better.
So now that, obviously the current situation just around the world with everyone kind of being stuck and not really being able to get out on ice, what are some things from, maybe drills that you've already done or things that you're kind of putting together now that are keeping people in shape and helping people, stay around the game right now?
So what I'm doing right now is a lot of the training programs I'm creating, they are where there's very minimal equipment required. I know it's a tough time for people, so I'm trying to put together drills that can be done in a tight space virtually anywhere, whether it's a driveway, a basement, a garage. So I'm trying to keep that in mind. So what I'm also incorporating is I have different programs. So I have programs for stick handling specifically, which is great if a player doesn't have an area to shoot. And then I also have programs where it has shooting mixed in with stick handling. And I also have a program now that was released earlier in May called Coach Rich Live, which is virtual training, which is actually out of my basement, and the kids love it. And I actually come up from the basement. I am just soaking wet like I jumped in a pool. It's such a hard workout. And the class ranges are like 40 to 60 minutes, but the kids really like it. I do it differently, where I only take around 8 to 10 kids at a time maximum. Motor City groups, I have only 4 kids. And I do that because I want to be able to interact with the kid. I like, if Tommy's in the class, I want to yell at Tommy and make him, give him that attention versus taking on 40 or 50 kids.
Sure.
All at once just to try to do, a quick thing. So I'd rather interact with the kids and really give them some value during such a difficult time.
And kind of going off of that, we previously talked a little bit about the HockeyMonkey hockey coach partnership. Moving forward, what can people expect, or what should they expect from the partnership, and what type of new skills can they acquire moving forward?
Yes, absolutely. So actually, today I was just filming our drill of the week. So what you can look for is there's going to be a new drill every week. The drills are going to be stick handling or shooting, and all that can be done at home with minimal space required. So I'm super excited about the drill of the week. I just shot the first drill today. I think you guys are going to really like it. It's going to be challenging. It's really going to help develop the hand and shooting. And I mean, those are the things at times too in practice when you're on the ice, often can be neglected if you're not in a skill session, because in practice you only get so many shots and you really can't work on different moves like a toe drag or something without your coach yelling at you. So it gives you an opportunity to work on skills and own them at home. And the drill of the week will keep things fresh where you can have new challenges. I'm going to add challenges at times, and see how players do, and have players submit the videos to be featured on Instagram and stuff. So I'm super excited about it. I'm also going to be coming up with more programs on HockeyCoach.com for stick handling and other things, and possibly some virtual sessions for some HockeyMonkey customers. So there's all kinds of opportunities that can come of this partnership for all the HockeyMonkey players out there.
Sweet. Yeah, no, I know we're definitely excited to check everything out and get that going. Before we let you go, Rich, I've got a few just more kind of generic coaching questions that can be a little bit more rapid fire. But so to set this one up, about a year and a half ago, we shot an entire YouTube series of. So I've never played hockey. I'm a lacrosse player. I grew up in Texas. Never really was around the game until college, basically. But we made a YouTube series where I tried to learn how to play hockey in, I think it was like 5 or 6 months. And like I had never skated before, never worn hockey pads, anything like that. And it was miserable. I just could not figure it out. So going off of that, from like a coaching standpoint, what's kind of the first thing you want to try to teach somebody, or like, somebody like myself that's been around or not been around the game, what's kind of the most important thing they should learn if they pick up skates and get out on the ice?
The big thing I think you would start out with is skating technique and getting your skating down. And then once you get your skating down, then I would start with stick hand, just skating with a puck. But I think the big thing is to keep up with the game, whether you're a professional player or a person just starting out. I think skating is everything. If you can't skate, you really are unable to compete or contribute to the game if you're playing in a team setting.
I think that's a good point. I remember, when we were trying to teach Jason how to skate, it was someone that doesn't have the background of coaching. It was just a matter of us saying like, hey, Jason, just go like this and do it. And, we were expecting him to, just know how to do it right away. So, I think there is a little bit of a skill, obviously, that comes to, coaching. You can't just tell someone to say do it and expect them for it to just kind of work. You have to kind of, know the right drills to do. So we didn't exactly have those.
Well,
so.
Yeah, that and, being able to explain how to do something.
Yeah.
Like showing a skill, but being able, to have a player understand what you're asking for them and a certain mechanics. I found that to be the big thing, whether it's a retired NHL player or something. Sometimes it's just breaking things down more to the kids or to someone just starting out. I think the explanation is everything when it comes to skill development, team practices.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think I didn't have the coaching that I needed to get any of my hockey career off the ground.
Yeah, we were lacking in the coaching department. So,
but then
That's funny.
Yeah, it was a brutal couple months. I'll tell you that much. But then another question, kind of stemming off from that too, is so I announce hockey and I'm around the game a lot now, and I think have more of kind of the IQ, but not the physical ability. So from like a coaching standpoint, would you rather someone that's 6'5", 230, great skater, great hockey player, but doesn't have that IQ? Or somebody that kind of knows where to be and when to be there and knows the game better, but doesn't have that physical aspect? Like, what's something that you would rather kind of work with?
I think the IQ is awesome because you can always make a player better when it comes to skill development-wise. The big thing with the way that the game is instructed now, it's a lot of systems and stuff when players get older, is where if a player can recognize where they need to be in a certain system or a certain kind of a play, I see that there'd be more benefit. But I also see that there's always an advantage to someone that is very aggressive and big and fast, where they can forecheck really good.
Yeah, and I think especially nowadays you have guys, Johnny Gaudreau, Braden Point, where they may not be the biggest skaters out on the ice, but obviously, they're two of the best players in the league, and that's a testament to their smarts, their IQ. So
absolutely, I 100% agree.
So I'm not sure if Tyler has any more questions for you, but I do have one more. Again, more kind of generic coaching question. So I think one thing that we see seemingly a lot more now than like even when Tyler and I were growing up as kids is specialization. And I think for a sport like hockey that is so technical and it's such a different skill set that's needed to be successful at hockey, I'm kind of just curious of your thoughts of like kids focusing on one sport from a young age versus trying to do as much as possible and play as many things as possible.
Well, I think the big thing is, what I see is a lot of players playing multiple sports in like spring and whatnot, which is excellent. It helps a lot with and a player's athleticism. I think it's huge to play other sports. One of my friends, his name's Joe Lorenz. He's the strength coach for the Devils, and that's the biggest advice he gave me to give to my players is, have kids play other sports. One of the things about me growing up is I had opportunities to play other sports, and I just loved hockey so much. I just that's all I played. So, but I do encourage all of my players. I have a lot of players that play baseball and soccer and football, and I think it really helps with athletic ability by playing different sports. I was just actually looking on Google earlier today, and I saw that they were talking about LeBron James, how he's actually training for football during the NBA lockout. So, and then I was watching the documentary about Michael Jordan, and they showed how he played basketball, but then he played baseball too. So I think playing different sports is definitely the way to go.
Would you say that's more of like from a technical standpoint, or would that be more from like a conditioning standpoint? Because I know for a lot of kids in the off season they play lacrosse just because the technical, I guess, rule set and how the game is played is pretty similar to hockey, or is it a little bit of both?
Yes, well that's actually a great thing that you brought up, because I coach a lot of kids that played lacrosse, and when it comes to hockey skills, my players that play lacrosse, they're always the players in front of the net tipping pucks. And they'll tip 10 out of 10, as where a player that doesn't play lacrosse will be far, far lower. It's not even a competition. So I definitely see that coordination, the hand-eye coordination, that makes a huge difference. And it actually helps their hockey game by playing lacrosse. So
yeah, definitely.
I would say that there's a lot of advantages from different sports. I mean, even basketball, you could even argue the way that they fake with their body to make a move with the ball to get around a player. You see that a lot in hockey now too.
All right, so we're gonna cut out that little audio clip and just use it for the lacrosse guys, just to hold over the hockey guys' heads from here going forward. So, Rich, thanks so much.
I'm gonna find a way to delete the clip.
Okay, well, great. I think that's all we had, unless you had anything else you wanted to add about HockeyCoach.com or anything going forward.
No, it's good.
As for the listeners that are tuning in, where can they find you on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or your online website?
Okay, so for Instagram, it's Motor City Hockey. Facebook is Motor City Hockey as well. And then I am on HockeyCoach.com and MotorCityHockey.com. HockeyCoach.com, there are opportunities for virtual training. So reach out. My email is rich@hockeycoach.com, and we're currently doing sessions right now.
Actually, that made me think of one more question before we let you go. You have HockeyCoach.com and HockeyAtHome.com as domains that you own?
Yes.
How did you manage that? I mean, those are two incredibly high-ranking domains.
That's hilarious. So my wife actually gets really mad about me buying those domains. Actually, I have Hockey Network too. No, so what I do is I reached out to the guy. I found the guy that owned HockeyCoach.com, and I sent texts back and forth because I was able to find out who owned it, and then we finally agreed on a price, which was a good price, and so I bought that. And then Hockey at Home, I knew the hashtag was going crazy, and people, everyone was talking about that, and I looked up that domain, and then it was actually available online for purchase, and it wasn't expensive. I think it was actually under $200. So I grabbed that because I just thought it would be it really fits the program. It's Hockey at Home. So
and
I feel like when you have that .com with that kind of a name, I think it brings credibility right from the start.
I know that hashtag is really popular with the NHL now too, so that's huge.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
All right, well, great. Rich Mihelic from Motor City Hockey, HockeyCoach.com. As we mentioned throughout the interview, check out the Drills of the Week coming soon to HockeyMonkey, all of our social pages. Rich just mentioned where you can find him on social as well, so be sure to get the follows out for all the hockey drills that you need. Rich, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate you guys having me.